Well, welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Heather Frierson, and I'm your host of the Business Spotlight podcast. And today I have Jeremy Cioara, founder of Veeya. And he's going to be talking about all about his business journey to business ownership challenges, best practices, and really just share a sneak peek of what it's like to own and operate a business. So if this is your first time to the show, be sure to like and subscribe so you can get a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. Well, Jeremy, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me, Heather. I'm actually really excited to be here. This should be fun.
Well, we should be very transparent here because we've already had a good time before we even started with the show. One, about your shirt, and then two, this is part two or act two, we should say, because we tried this before and here we are. But we have to tell everybody about your shirt because it's the best.
So it's funny because as I'm watching it on the screen, it's like a Dancing with the Stars. I'm glad, and it's not. It's just a black shirt. I want to say it's like lint balls all over it, but it's not. It has little white specks, but for whatever reason, probably just the little light that lights you up, it probably just adds a little sparkle. So I'm figuring we got Christmas right around the corner.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're ready to go. You ready for a holiday party, an impromptu holiday party right now?
Yep, absolutely.
Well, if you could just set the stage for all of our listeners today and let us know and tell us a little bit about your background, who you are, and what Veeya is.
Gosh, yeah. So I'll give the flyby of background. I grew up teaching, actually. Right out of high school, I was attending college and was working. And long story short, ended up in front of a classroom teaching a group of technicians about this new thing called DSL. This is back when the internet was still like, this is going to be a thing, guys. It's like Bitcoin. Yeah. Bitcoin. It's going to be a thing. So I'm at the front of the classroom. Found I had a knack for teaching, and that was where it all started. Is I would actually, this is moving from organization to organization, teaching. Back then, and still to this day, they're called certification classes. So you would get certified in Novell or Microsoft or Cisco, and actually ended up at community colleges teaching night classes as a lot of my training went online, and started doing online training as we rounded the Y2K realm. It's been a while, and it's
been a while.
Yeah,
but I remember.
Yep, and then and so stayed with online training, and when as you know, this was actually even before there was a YouTube, but when you start putting content online, that starts forming connections, and everything's a long story short. Ended up getting contacted by a company in the Netherlands who was trying to get started here in the United States, and when you talk about, well, how do businesses start? It can start however. They contacted me and said, hey, could you just kind of help out? And I was thinking, oh, this could be a fun consulting thing. Help out, get some network systems running in one of the schools that they were supporting here. I was like, yeah, sure, we'll do that. And before I knew it, the owner of that company had come out and said, hey, do you want to buy the company here? And,
my gosh.
They were kind of like, do you want to start your own thing? And so welcome to the accidental entrepreneur, because I brought it home to my wife, and she goes, you have no idea what you're doing. And I said, that's right, I don't. But I think this is a really good idea. And that was what began the company that is now called Veeya, which is all about handling technology for life-changing companies. Our mission statement is, we help life-changing organizations impact more lives. So one of the things that you'll learn really quick is that distractions are death. As you're starting a company, it's like, and so all of these life-changing companies. So what do I mean? Like our number one target is schools. So education. We love helping schools handle all their technology needs. So voice
Mhm.
over IP phones, PA systems, network, internet, student testing, blah, 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 blah. Like we do all, but any organization, I mean, we can help anybody, but we found our
Mhm.
niche is really organizations that are making an impact in people's lives. So
Mhm.
we also we have a number of churches that we support. We have a number of elderly care and like state-funded where they help disabled folks and autistic kids, all that. Like so any company where we're like, man, they're making a major impact. And there's some companies I can't even tell you, they're so huge and making some of
Wow.
the biggest impact in the world, and somehow we end up connected with them. And so that's in short what Veeya is and how it got there.
I love that. And I think it just goes to show, like you said, you're an accidental entrepreneur, but you were already working in your gifts and talents and somebody noticed it and you followed that path. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that makes sense that you're working, doing the thing that you love, which is what I hear a lot of the stories that I do from entrepreneurs is that they're doing what they love. It's not a matter of finances and all the things, but it's I love what I do. Would
Yeah,
you say that was true?
I think so. There's a friend of mine who his life motto is be who you are, say what you know, give what you have.
Mm,
And that's stepping into being an entrepreneur. I found that to be true, but I didn't at first. When you become CEO, there's a lot
mhm,
of weight that goes with that of, well, now you need to be this and that. And that's one of the things. I mean, Veeya's been around for about 15 years. It has about 40
mm,
employees now. It's cool. But it was a long time of me doing things that I was not good at all.
mm,
Not realizing that I don't have to do that. That like that, and that was quite a journey. Because so being a content creator, online stuff,
mhm,
there was a lot of like, okay, I kind of do everything. I edit, I post, and as you move into the space of a company where now it's like, hey, we're building a team. Um, People are amazing. It's amazing that you'll
mhm,
find people like the stuff that you don't like to do. There's
mhm,
somebody out there that's like, I would so love to do that. Oh, I just have to tell a quick story. So
mhm.
so we homeschool. We have 7 kids, and
Oh
we
my goodness.
I know, like what? So my wife is sitting there and she's putting together packets of
Mhm.
of like school stuff. She's putting together
Yeah.
the school stuff for this next year. She goes, "Do you want to help?" And I go, not really. And she's like, "Good, because I love doing this." And I'm like, "How can you like that?" And she goes, "I love doing mindless,
Mm.
repeatable tasks." I was like,
Wow.
"What?" Because she's brilliant. She's the one that finance degree worked like, and she homeschools my kid, and I'm like, how? But that's again where
That's
the
her
thing.
lane.
Oh man, it's her lane, and when you get,
Yeah.
and that's I think that I kind of geek out on that because
Mhm.
I've found as the company's grown, I'm like, man, there are just some things that I really don't like doing, and I felt for years, and so when you start a company, that's and
Mhm.
I'm sure and some of the stuff that you
Yeah.
like, it's like there's just stuff that you don't like doing, and the
Mhm.
beauty is there's someone out there that really does, and
It's
and when
so
you
true.
and have you ever run into that like that
I
you?
all the time, and I feel like what I've had to learn is to not feel guilty to ask that person or
Oh
someone
my
to do what
gosh,
I hate because they love it. And when you feel
totally.
guilty, they think it's an insult. Like you're really insulting them when you're like, "I'm so sorry, I'm asking you to do this," when they love to do it.
Right. And that's why I look at it, I'm like, it took me a while to get there to be like, oh, that like
Mhm.
this, like because it's so repelling to me, and
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
find somebody like, hey, can you print those 10 packets and staple them and put them on my desk? Like, I would love, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
awesome.
it's like someone saying to you, I'm sorry, we're asking you to teach. I know it's a burden. You're
Yeah,
like, no, it's not. I love it.
yeah, 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 for
Yeah.
sure. Yep.
So you talked about someone approached you to buy this business. So it wasn't what it is today. So there had to be a journey of from being really, you said a teacher with and teaching night classes, which is kind of a solopreneur job,
Hmm.
to now CEO of a 40 plus team.
Right.
So what was that journey like and how did it change you?
Well, and that's ooh, that'll be an interesting one to make concise. So the rest of the story, if you will, was as I'm sitting there with my wife with this giant pack of papers. I'm the guy that's like, why even read it? It has an X right there. You just sign. She goes, you don't know what you're doing, do you? And I go, I don't know what I'm doing, but I think this is a great idea. And she goes, well, why don't you find somebody? And this is why my wife is the smarter one.
Mhm.
Why don't you find somebody that does know what they're doing? Do we know somebody that knows how to do business? And so I ended up talking with the executive pastor of my church, and I'm going through it with him, and he goes, this is like a great idea. And he goes, look, we could go one of two ways because he's run businesses in the past. He said,
Mhm.
I could either advise you on this or I could join you in it. I go, really?
Wow.
And so it started as a partnership. And as time went on,
Wow.
it eventually became back to just me. But by that point, I mean, so
Mhm.
he was, and that's one of the pointer, find somebody who knows what excuse me, what they're
Mm.
doing. Because there's so many things that well, and what's amazing is that gentleman is still with me. He's retiring this year.
Mm.
He's in his late 70s, and it wasn't even until probably the last 2 years that I'm like, hey, I'm thinking like I don't need to do this department. Can you handle it? And it was one of those things, just like Heather, just like we were just talking about, where he's
Yeah.
like, I would love to run that department. I'm like, I'm like, you would really? And he's like dominating it at in
Mm.
his late 70s, so much more
Wow.
than I could ever. And I'm like, you had me at hello, so anyhow, yes, so quite a like rewind. So he started, and he was the one that was like, okay, we need to hire somebody first. Oh,
Mhm.
like being a solopreneur, teaching night classes, just
Mhm.
like you said, all
Mhm.
of that was totally foreign to me. Hire somebody. Oh, I guess that's what we're
Mhm.
supposed to do. Okay, and onboarded employee number one. How's that? Learning management over and again, all of this when you're a solopreneur,
Mhm.
that you're just used to doing everything on your own. So I
Yeah.
quickly got swamped, and I mean, early on in the company, I was like, I won't take a salary because this is a thing I'm going to learn, and that'll be my payment. And I accidentally forgot to take a salary for 7 years. It's just where it was just like it was just what I know. You're like, what?
What?
So right, teaching evening classes, teaching
Mm.
online. That's something I could do. It was fun for me and actually provided a great income. So I
Mhm.
was able to do that. But never. I mean, lesson learned. Like, wow, should structure
Mm.
the business to where it's not the owner who ends up with the
Yeah.
last. And matter of fact, book I would recommend for you if you haven't
Oh,
read it.
yeah.
It's actually a book called Profit First.
Mm.
It's a really simple book. Like one of the things that I've heard over the years, people are like, "You're running a lifestyle business. You're running a business that's like you like doing it instead of it's all about the profit." And I'm like, I've actually had that kind of, I'm like, wouldn't you
Hmm.
want to run a business that you like doing too? But most businesses are there just to make money. And yes,
Right.
making money should be a big thing. But that's what that Profit First book is about, is
Mhm.
it's like disciplining the business so it's not one that you just grow and then sell, and that's when you actually get paid. It's one that you can
Mm.
grow and it can keep growing with you, but
Right.
it's a different mindset. So anyhow.
Yeah.
We've
It
jumped
almost kind of,
between 5 different
we
things.
have jumped, but I get the sentiment and I get like, it's almost you feel guilty. I've heard
Hmm.
that before. Like you feel guilty that you want to help everybody else first. And so I'll just run the business and make sure everybody else is fed.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's totally true, especially when you have a business where you really genuinely care about the people
Mm-hmm.
that are there. You look and you go, well, you start, and that there's a life lesson there. They have family, they need
Mm-hmm.
this, and it's there's been times where you start and you even keep people on board at the company that you're like, probably should have gone, but
Mm-hmm.
you start, and in short, you start playing God in people's lives, and that's where it
Mm-hmm.
becomes really messy, is because
Mm-hmm.
you're trying to be like, okay, I need to make sure that you're taken care of, when at the end of the day, that person is dragging the whole business down. Or
Yeah.
I need to make sure that you make a little bit more, because I can't imagine what it's a lot of times
Yeah.
that's a hard thing to learn, is like, create the structure and put the
Mm.
folks in the structure, and yes. So yes, you end up thinking about yourself last if you have
Mm-hmm.
that. If you, I don't want to say that well, if you take a salary, then you're not thinking, but it's like, if you have a heart for people, which most entrepreneurs
Mm-hmm.
do, they're there to help in some way. Every business
Yeah.
should help somebody somehow. So
It's very true. And, a lot of entrepreneurs that I hear when they're growing their team, they care so much about their team, which is so good and important. But the truth is, and that it sounds like you're saying the same thing. If we're not taking care of ourselves, the company might not last, which means those jobs won't be there forever.
yeah, yeah. And that's one of the things early on that I wish I would have known, because before, like I said, 8 years without a
Mm-hmm.
salary, it's like, oh, but then when you actually try and say, okay, I now need to take a salary,
Mm-hmm.
now it's like a crowbar, where it's like, no, we ran the business to where it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's right here, it's making a little profit. Your salary is going to put us back in the red again. And it's like,
Mm.
okay. So,
Yeah.
sorry that we're gonna have to figure something out there. But
Right.
like, that's a lot of times, as you grow a company, everybody's like, well, it takes money to make money, and it's true.
Mm.
But yeah, it can get you in some weird situations.
So what has this now 15 years later?
Mhm.
You have a thriving team, you're making a salary. You sound like you have a great family. How has this business, how has Veeya afforded you the lifestyle, maybe, or balance that you desire to have?
It's great question. It's all about great people.
Mm,
So Veeya, at this point in my journey, um, Veeya is kind of a 1 to 2 day a week thing for me, because I have great people.
mm,
As the business grows and becomes more successful, and like, again, lesson learned. Like, I was always like, why do people go out for venture capital? You should just. But I'm like, oh, I get it now. It took a long time for us to get to the point where we could actually afford to have amazing people, like at the
yeah,
beginning I was sharing, that have all the right giftings and can actually lead, instead of not leading. And so
yeah.
so at this point now, Veeya is so I have a somewhat of a I have a plan. So Veeya has always been square one. So Veeya, so it is uh, a company that does technology in life-changing
Mhm,
organizations. But the way that we do technology there is we break it into all the different things. I mean, when you say IT nowadays, it's like, what? It
mhm,
used to be like anything with a plug. Now it's like, you've got
mm,
the cloud, you've got
mm,
a phone system, you've got your cell phone, and mobile apps, and networks, and security. Like
mm.
my swimming pool is online. Everything's online and connected nowadays.
Yeah,
And so
it's
what we
true.
did at Via is we kind of broke it into individual things. Like, okay, we have our network service. If Because
Mm,
there might be an organization that has IT folks that are handling everything, but they don't have expertise in network. So we can come in and just be
mm,
like, hey, let us do that for you, and we can manage the network as just one piece. Or
okay.
we have a Microsoft 365 or a Google Work. So all of these things are individual turnkey services, that are all kind of self-contained. Like, okay, you're signed up for that and that. Like those two services is all we do for that organization. Like wireless, that's a big thing. Everybody's like, oh, the wireless is terrible. Well, we've got a wireless service. So that's Veeya, and that's working well. I've always had what I've called phase 2, which is Viato. Veeya 2. It's kind of a yet. I thought it was very witty.
I got it.
Thank you. There's
very,
good.
Very clever. Very clever.
So I'm the guy who comes up with the name, and that's about it. So what Viato does is create the training for all of those things. And my aim is that we can when we help life-changing companies impact more lives, like we hire amazing people, which we want to find people that have warm personalities, that engage you, that look you in the eye, which is, I don't want to stereotype, but for the most part, IT people don't have a great reputation for handling great conversations. And so we love hiring the right people and training them up to do all of these individual services. And so now Viato, which actually is going to go by a different name. You may hear of it soon. But that's going to create all the training. Then Viatre, now you get the theme. Phase 3 is to create a school. I want to create a school that can change education. We're at a weird place in our world where college degrees don't hold the weight that they used to. As a matter of fact, you see a lot of folks are kind of like, I'm not, like, have a purpose for going to college instead of that just being like, that's the next step. And so I want to create something that allows you to get some very hands-on in the real world education, both in online and in a classroom. So going back to, you're like, what did I ask? You asked, like, how is that afforded me the lifestyle and all of that? Veeya, which initially was like, oh my gosh, why would I do this? And why does anybody start a business? Like, it was so hard. That is now one piece of the puzzle, has amazing people working there to the point where I can now back away and go, okay, if I'm not there, the walls don't come crumbling down. It's now like, I have great people that are looking and going, we've got this. And I can go, so, I mean, obviously homeschooling 7 kids, there's a lot of stuff there. But in addition to that, now I'm looking, going, okay, what's next? Saying the thing I never thought I would say, which is, I kind of want to do this again, but now I know a little better what I'm doing.
Right. You have a lot more experience this time around.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I think, so what the future holds, and it's one of the things, like, life journey is, I'm too random to have structure and like, here's the plan. For me, faith guides it. I'm like, okay, God, what door are you opening next? And they happen at just the right time. And you just go, okay, don't know where that's going to go, but let's step into it, and something always comes of it. So that's where I am, of looking for what's the next door and already starting on a couple journeys.
You talked about culture a little bit, and now I can't remember if it's before we started the show or right after the show, but culture is really important to you. And I think sometimes that can be overlooked by a lot of business owners. Talk to me about culture and how you create it.
Oh, that's a great question, and a difficult one. And I've asked myself the same question a great many times. First off, the people create their culture. They will either create it, adopt it, or shape it. So through the years of Veeya, a lot of times I would bring in new people, and the culture would completely change. And I'm like, wow. And sometimes it'd be for the better. Sometimes it'd be for the worse. The company was so small that it hadn't quite established, like, this is how we do things at Veeya. This is the kind of people that we are. It wasn't so much about core values or mission statements or all these things that we would write down and put into a drawer until the next year. It was just about, who are the people that are there? And so the fastest way to change culture is to change people. If
Mm.
like to be frank, when people are coming in and when people go, as people come and go, they truly set your culture. And so the
Mhm.
goal, so how do I create a culture? I bring the right people in and I just spend as much time with those right people as I can.
Mm.
I know it was extraordinarily awkward, and I'm sure whoever listened to this will be like, I'm not doing that. But I was in a leadership meeting, and I said, guys, I want us to be around this table and be like, have a genuine love for each other.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
you could cut that silence with a knife. Where everybody's like, what do you mean? I said, I want to be able to like walk out of this meeting and be like, love you guys. And everybody's like,
Mm.
that's normal, right? And like again, it was totally awkward, but people got it. Like it's one of those
Yeah.
things like, if I'm going to spend this much time with people, I want it to be people that I truly pour into and that pour into me.
Yeah.
And so having it's about like now this is going to sound very strange, but um, when my wife and I, before we got married, this is 22 years ago now,
Mhm.
we did premarital counseling. It's like we want to make sure, and so
Yes.
what's funny is the premarital counseling
I'm
that.
familiar, so that's why
Okay,
I'm
good, good,
laughing.
good. I'm like a lot of people are like, that's kind of weird.
No.
You're like preparing for challenges or what? And
No. Yeah.
so we did a personality Myers-Briggs, right?
Mhm.
And the person met with my wife and I seriously, and she goes, I'm not sure just how compatible you guys are.
Wow.
And right, I'm like, huh? And she goes, Jeremy, you are as far left as you could possibly go on the introvert spectrum, which I know
You
as
are?
yeah, as you listen to
You
me
weren't
right now,
wearing
you're like,
sparkly shirts then.
why? Yeah, exactly. There was no sparkly shirts at all. And my wife was as far as you could go on the and that's going to be like that's going to be a major energy draw and all that kind of stuff. But
Mm.
the funny thing is now I look at it and I go 22 years ago, one, I wasn't exactly sure who I was.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm.
like many of us in our
Yeah.
20s are, but I thought, you know what, I can teach a great class, but I'm not really good with people. I know
Yeah.
that sounds funny, but it took time, and that's probably one of the
Yeah.
biggest growths in growing a company. Is initially I would hire people, and I would kind of put them over. Okay, you're good, you're good. And what
Mhm.
I'd start seeing, and going back to your question on culture, is
Mhm.
like weird things with like people would start arguing, and now I'm getting in the middle. And if you want to have some really awkward conversations, put a heavy introvert in the middle of a fight,
Mhm.
and I'm
Watch their
like,
face
this is
freeze.
right, exactly. And it always would end up over time with somebody either quitting or getting fired. And it was like,
Yeah.
and then those were the miserable years. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong building this culture? And I'm like, oh, and what simply put, going again back to how do you build a
Yeah.
culture? When you bring folks in, you got to spend time with them. And I know that's not
Mhm.
it, but take them out to lunch, during an interview to ask them what does life look like? What are your hobbies? I want to know you. I want to,
Yeah.
and the closer you can form those bonds, which again, it's a little weird in a work environment. But
Yeah.
that's
It's
my answer
important.
on how you
Well,
build.
I had a guest say just recently he had a partner in business. They were co-founders. And I flat out said, "What makes your relationship so good after 12 years?" And he said, "Love."
Mm,
And it's really just about understanding how you work with each other. And
yeah.
that's what his point was as he expanded. But at first he just said love, period, and just sat there. And I was like, oh yeah, well,
There it is. Awkward. The same thing as when I was in
that's
that meeting. Just
it.
love you guys. Like didn't expect that in the org meeting. So yeah,
Yeah, but I think
it's
that's so good because people feel safe, I'm sure, in an environment where they know you care about them. And I think that's important as you're, building any kind of business. Your
yeah,
customers and the people you work with want to know that you
yeah,
really do care.
yeah, yeah. And through those relationships, people get to know you're a real person.
Hmm.
A lot of times as the CEO, owner, whatever president, you get a reputation of like, oh, that guy's brilliant. He knows everything, and people find
Yeah.
out really quick. No, that's not true. I know him. He's just a goofball. But you know, but that's the thing is,
Yeah.
I do things amazingly that other folks
Mm,
can't do as well. And so
yeah.
it's yeah, it's about
It's all about it.
forming those
It's culture, training, making team important, that they know how the business works, all the things. And so
yep,
it all goes together. You can't leave one without the other.
yep, yep. That's a
So we
great way to
talked
say it.
about Veeya and the three phases of Veeya, but where do you see yourself even as CEO? And I ask a lot of the times with business owners, what is your exit ramp maybe or next season look
Mm.
like?
It's that your question is timely because that's actually one of the things
Mm,
that I was just talking with I'll call him the number two guy at the
mhm,
company. He said, and I think this is one of the best things an entrepreneur can hear is
mhm.
he goes, "We've got most things under control. You can do whatever you want to do. What do you want to do?" And so that was a challenge to me to go, I really want to do the things that I love. Like I
Mhm.
love when I meet with a new customer and they throw out their problems. I'm like, oh, well, we could just do this. And so bullet point number one, bring me into the key customer conversations where they're trying to
Yeah.
figure out like, we've got problems. How do I solve them? I would love to have those conversations. What side ramp number 53, I think, in our conversation. Because I'm on YouTube, I end up linking up with a lot of other YouTubers as well. And I've had
Mhm.
YouTubers contacted me. Like I've got some of these because behind when you talk to big YouTube folks, a lot of times people don't realize it's not just them. I mean,
Mhm.
there's one YouTuber that we linked up with that has 400 staff members behind them, but they look like just a small
400. Wow.
400. I know. And I'm like, I had no idea. But he's
They
like,
have to have the silver plaque then.
they have so many more of those plaques. I'll have to show you a picture
Wow.
sometime. I will.
Okay.
But so uh, where was I? So solving problems for new customers.
Yes.
I love company meetings. Like let's do an
Mhm.
all hand. Like let me tell everybody about the things that you were. I don't want to come up with the things that you're doing. Feed me that information. I
Mhm.
love putting together proposals. Anything new. I love doing it. If even we just sent out a memo. It's Christmas, just before the end of the year. Hey, do you have your spare network equipment? What? Spare network equipment? Like, what do you think? Like, oh yeah, if you lose a switch or a wireless access point, like a whole wing of your building can go down, or
Mm.
your firewall, your whole building goes with it. And people are like,
Wow.
oh, you've got one of those spare, right? No, we don't. That's like, and so we have to like
Yeah.
that's a thing. And I
Yeah.
like we didn't have a memo. I'm like, I would love to write that. And again, people would look at me
Mhm.
like, huh? I would love to write the memo. Let me just type up because I love writing. I love
Mm.
bragging point. Oh, okay. One more small short story. I was the third grade creative writing state championship
Oh,
in Arizona on use of a.
congratulations.
Thank you. The topic was the use of a coconut seed, and I still have that little thing. It was funny because
Oh.
as we were moving houses, my wife, who is had the college scholarship athlete, like
Mhm.
she brought out her notebook of like, and it's like paper clippings of her fadeaway 3-point shot, and I go, look, I was third grade state champion. So
You
anyway,
got to start somewhere.
so that's the future is,
Yeah.
and that's one of the beautiful things about being an entrepreneur is once you get there, which that
Mhm.
journey is, it can be grueling.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it has to be,
Mhm.
but you can finally start saying, okay, I've learned what I love to do, and now I can create a custom role that still adds a lot of value that is just doing what I love.
Did you say what that custom role would be?
Uh,
Are you still
I don't
processing
have
it right now?
I don't have a title for it, but that's what I'm actually working out of Veeya. So like,
That's exciting.
what are the things that I want to be brought into
Mhm.
that I would
I was trying for us to be the first to know, like breaking news right here.
breaking news. Yeah, no, I'm in the midst of it, and probably in the next
Okay.
couple of weeks I'll be able to say, and that's the funny thing is you say CEO, and
Mm,
I like I'm almost wanting to change that title just because there's
mm,
so much that people assume of just like, let me tell
yeah,
you what I want to do, and then I'll come up with a title that fits that, and that's
that's awesome.
yeah.
I love that so much. I feel like we're going to have another conversation when that happens for sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Well, before we get to my fun rapid fire questions, is there anything that you would like our audience to know about Veeya or just the journey of entrepreneurship that you want to share?
Ah, I, I would if I were to pick something
Mhm,
along the journey, let go of fear.
mm,
Hang on, I need to not make it sound like I'm making a quotable statement right now.
mm,
It's more of like I found when things got so hard. I mean, it's like sleepless nights, things going wrong, angry customers. Oh, we lost that one. How are we going to make payroll? Like, I've gone through all of that, and then some. And
mhm,
it's like through those times, you start building fences around like, okay, I'm not doing that again. I
mhm.
made so many of those statements. I'm not doing that again. And
Yeah.
what I found is in doing that, I was really gripping fear. I was like, okay,
Mhm,
I've learned that hurt a lot, and I don't want to do that again.
mm,
Instead of making that statement, and what I found is there was years where I just would stand back and let things happen instead of stepping
yeah.
into it. Um, just know that when you step into things with your whole heart,
Mhm,
you're gonna something amazing is gonna come from it, even if it
yeah.
doesn't turn out quote unquote good. Like, okay, that was successful. Profit is now at blah blah blah. It's like I look at the Jeremy who was the solopreneur
Mhm,
doing things like this by himself, recording videos, and going, okay, well, I think I'm pretty well done. Like
mhm,
there's a whole world that you open up when you just lean into things
mm, mhm.
without fear and see what
Yeah,
comes of it. Um, that's
that's good.
that would be the I'm not sure what quotable thing would come from that, but that's it.
It's wisdom though, for sure. So
Mm.
yes, for sure. I love that. All right, you ready for some fun rapid fire questions?
Bring him. Let's do it.
All right. What do you think is the key to success for you?
Oh, key to success for me is relentless optimism.
Mm,
The terrible stuff happens all the time, and I
mm,
just look and go, well, let's see what comes of this.
yeah.
I literally one of our a large customer of ours just hired a new CIO, and I was just on the phone with him this morning, and I could tell I'm like, I know you. You're someone who just wants to make a name for yourself, and
Mm,
I know that in the way they make a name, like we're gonna. And so anyway, I look at that, I'm like, well, didn't see that one coming, but let's see where this goes, and let's lean into this with all that we've got.
yeah,
Hey, if we can make him look good, then it'll all work
mm,
out in the end. And
that's
so
true.
yeah, relentless optimism, I think, is a huge key.
Yeah, that's really good. I like that a lot. All right. So if you had one piece of advice for other entrepreneurs, what would that advice be?
Mm, just one. One piece of advice I would so I would speak to them personally, directly, similar to some of the conversation you and I had earlier, Heather, of like finding what you're good at. Actually, there is a amazing book, and I love all his books, but there's an author named Patrick Lencioni. He
Mhm.
writes a lot of business books. He has one called The Six Working Geniuses.
Love
Um,
it.
have you read that book?
I've taken the test
Oh,
and I know what
oh,
my geniuses are, which don't put me on the spot right now. I'll have
oh
to look
my
it up.
word, I'm so curious. Well, like the beauty of that, like what Patrick Lencioni does, he
Mhm.
always takes like a very simple concept and writes a fun story around it. And I have found that is super effective, not only for myself,
Mhm.
but for others. So the flyby is it's personality testing, but it's useful. Like
Mhm.
there's
Yeah.
so many personality tests that I found that I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Oh, you pegged me,
Yeah.
but how does that really help?
How does it work? Hmm.
Whereas he has a model called Widget
Hmm.
that really helps people like figure out where they can plug in and work and what kind of work they're really good at.
Yeah.
And so when I read that book and took the test, I found I was with I'm the wonder and invention guy. I
Oh.
love like, oh, it's something
Hmm.
new. That and like when I saw it, I that immediately when you were talking about like,
Yes.
well, what do you see the future as being? I go, man,
Hmm.
with it, like anything with wonder and invention. Like,
Yes.
okay,
I'm
there's
invention. I do remember that. I am invention.
there you go. You hear of a
Yeah.
problem and like, here's what I'm going to create to solve that. Like,
Hmm.
I love
Hmm.
that innovation phase.
Yeah.
Once it gets beyond that and that like the next one up is oh and the other piece of that. So WI, wonder and invention. Wonder, like, okay, I wonder
Hmm.
how we can make this better. Invention, here's how we can do it. You got to have that D, discernment. You have to have
Hmm.
somebody, and that's where my strengths go off, and that's why I married a
Hmm.
discerner, and I surround myself. It's funny when we took the test as a leadership team. I'm like, I am surrounded by discerning people, and they all look at me and they go, I wonder why. Like because like I come up with an idea in a minute, and they're like,
Yeah.
that's terrible, that's terrible. Oh well, actually that one could work,
Yep.
and I've
Hmm.
got to have that.
Right.
So the advice, I do remember your question. The advice that I would give other people is like, figure out where you fit and then tailor
Yes.
the people that you surround yourself with, that team that you're going to build, with the people that can complement that
Hmm.
and move work along. And that's where you get everybody operating, everybody's
Yeah.
loving what they're doing. And so anyway, that's the
That's really
advice
good.
I would give. Yeah.
Well, my next question was going to be book or podcast, but you gave us two incredible books in this show. And I want to encourage everybody to go get them because Patrick Lencioni, I got to see him last year too.
Oh,
It's a
cool.
really good one, I think, for everyone to have, especially if you're
Yeah.
building teams. So, all
Yeah.
right. If you had a little bit of magic dust and could sprinkle it in one area of your business, where would you sprinkle it?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, magic dust would land on the formalities, the
Mm,
KPIs, the metrics, the how much
mm.
money are we really making off of that one? Like,
Yeah.
how much time does that take? Like, one of the great things is we grew despite not having any process or systems and things like that. And then
Hmm.
we're like, oh my gosh, things are going off the rails. We need process, we need systems. And so we've been putting those in place. But man, I could use some magic dust to where it's just like
Yeah.
take that bag and
It's
throw it
good.
there to where it's like, okay, I've got all the right data, and now I can make the right decisions based on
Yeah.
data instead of just being like, I think that way.
It's good. It's
So
really good. All right,
yeah.
before we get to the last question of the day, share everybody. I'm still wrapped up in what you're saying. I want to have so many questions.
Oh,
Share
it's
with
cool.
everybody how they can follow you, find you, hire you, even. Just share all the things.
Oh, that's funny. Just so I have a unique name, just Google it. Type it in Google. There's so many avenues to go there, and you'll find many ways to contact me. Social media, I probably am most
Mhm.
active on LinkedIn because it's a little bit more businessy, and I don't
Mhm.
get sucked into why are the drones flying over, like, wow, the whole world's ending. LinkedIn is probably the best way to get me.
We will link that in the show notes for sure. For sure. All
Thanks.
right. Final question of the day. What is
Okay.
most inspiring you today?
Well, I would say the sparkly shirt. We've got
Yes.
Christmas right around the corner, and that I always take the Christmas week and the New Year's week off with
Hmm.
family. And
Hmm.
every year, I'm like, okay, we're gonna do this so much better. But it's just the fun part is just being on the journey with them.
Yeah.
And I think the inspiration is like you asked earlier, like what's your exit plan? And I don't have one. I don't want one.
Hmm.
I want that business to just continue on.
Yeah.
I want someday my kids to be like, I want to go work there, or hey, Dad, can I
Yeah.
continue in this? And so I think that the inspiration is like, I'm looking forward to this new year. I'm looking forward to like, okay, what's going to happen this time
Yeah.
around, and how can we create something that's just a wonderful, wonderful
Yeah.
place. Yeah.
I love that answer. I love that answer. And I would say also that you're looking forward to your chance on Dancing with the Stars, right?
I am. I am. Okay, Heather, I got to throw it back at you. What inspires you? As
Oh,
you're at the end of 2024, what is your inspiration?
that is so good. The end of the year is always interesting for me because it's also my birthday. And so it's right there on the 29th. So as the year is turning, so am I. And so I always set so many goals and visions. And, I'm a visionary too. And so I think what's
Yeah.
inspiring me is always just the newness of what can come. And that's what I'm
Mm,
looking forward to in this season is the newness.
yeah.
Not that it has been bad, but there's always something new. So that gets
Yeah.
me excited. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this
Yeah.
was an
Cool.
awesome conversation. I think you and I could talk all day long. So we're going to have to
Totally.
come back for round two
Mm,
and just see where you are with phase two and phase three. Does that sound good?
sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. Well, for everyone that's listening, don't forget to save this video so you can come back and watch and listen again because Jeremy really did have some amazing words of wisdom and great nuggets for all entrepreneurs that are out there doing business day in and day out. It's truly, truly inspiring. So don't forget to like and subscribe so that you get a notification every time a new show drops, just like this one. Thank you for joining us today, but a special thank you to you, Jeremy. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks, Heather. I had a great time.
Bye bye.
Bye.